The unseen threat. The galaxy was a vast place, full of strange worlds and alien species, all with their own dreams and goals. For centuries, the universe had lived in uneasy peace. Some races ruled with an iron fist, while others stayed quiet, hoping to avoid trouble. But there was one truth that no one spoke about, a truth that had remained hidden for generations. A threat was coming. The threat was not an alien army, nor was it a disease or a natural disaster. It was something more dangerous, more elusive, something no one could predict. Deep in the heart of the galaxy, the stars themselves seemed to tremble, as if the universe knew something was wrong. And this time, it wasn't a force that could be fought with weapons or technology. The threat came from a place no one could reach. It came from Earth. For years, Earth had been a quiet, isolated planet, hidden away in the corner of the galaxy. The rest of the universe had forgotten about it, dismissing it as nothing more than a primitive world, full of nothing more than weak, vulnerable humans. Earth was just another little blue dot, far from the reach of galactic powers. No one cared for Earth. No one noticed Earth. But now, something had changed. It all started with a strange signal. At first, it was a small thing, easily ignored, almost like a whisper in the dark. The signal was weak, barely detectable by the galaxy's advanced technology. But for those who paid attention, there was something strange about it. The signal seemed to carry a message from Earth. The first few races who discovered the signal thought it was a joke. They laughed it off, dismissing it as another weak attempt from a primitive species. But as the signal repeated itself, growing slightly stronger each time, it became clear something had changed on Earth, something that could not be ignored. The signal carried a warning, and the warning was simple: we are ready. The message sent shockwaves through the galaxy. It was a statement that meant one thing: Earth was not as weak as everyone thought. The humans, those tiny creatures who lived on a small planet, had found something powerful enough to send a message across the stars. At first, no one knew how to react. Some galactic leaders laughed at the absurdity of it. Humanity, after all, had never been a significant player in galactic affairs. They had no advanced fleets, no massive armies, no great technology. They were simply a race of curious, intelligent creatures. But now, they were sending out signals, and that alone was enough to make some of the most powerful beings in the universe uneasy. The leaders of the most powerful galactic empires gathered to discuss the signal. They had heard the rumors, and now the signal was impossible to ignore. Something had happened on Earth, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. But there was something even more troubling. The humans had been quiet for so long. They had remained hidden, keeping to themselves. They had not been involved in galactic conflicts or battles. Why now? Why send a message now? Some of the galaxy's brightest minds were assigned to investigate the signal. They studied it, tried to decode it, but it seemed to be beyond their understanding. The technology humanity had used to send the message was like nothing anyone had ever seen. It was a blend of old and new, advanced, yet simple. But the most unsettling part was the message itself. The signal wasn't just a warning. It was a call to action. The humans weren't asking for help. They weren't seeking alliances or trying to make friends. They were declaring that they were ready to stand their ground. As the days passed, the message repeated. Each time it grew stronger, clearer, and more urgent. The leaders of the galaxy's great empires began to feel a growing sense of fear. What if humanity wasn't just a tiny species on the edge of the galaxy? What if they were something more? What if Earth's message meant they were preparing for something far greater than anyone had imagined? The signal continued, growing more frequent. Every time it came through, it left a sense of dread in its wake. The humans were no longer a hidden species. They were a rising force, and the galaxy's most powerful races could feel it. They could feel it deep in their bones. Something was coming, something they weren't ready for. As the weeks went by, the galaxy's leaders tried to figure out what humanity was planning. They knew they had to act quickly before humanity could mobilize. But what could they do? They had no idea what Earth had discovered, no idea what they were preparing for. They only knew that the humans had made their intentions clear. They were ready for war. The galaxy, once a place of peace and order, was now in turmoil. Some races began to prepare for battle, while others sought to form alliances with humanity, unsure if they were friends or enemies. There was a growing sense of unease everywhere, a feeling that no one knew what was coming, but everyone knew it would be big. And so, the galaxy trembled. The unseen threat had been revealed. Humanity, the small, quiet species from a forgotten world, had made its move, and no one knew what would happen next. The awakening of Earth. As the message from Earth continued to echo across the stars, the galaxy's most powerful leaders found themselves gripped by a growing sense of uncertainty. Humanity had awakened, but the question remained, what had driven them to send such a bold message? Why now, after so many years of hiding in the shadows? On Earth, things were changing. No longer were the humans the quiet, unassuming species that had been forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Earth's gates had been thrown wide open, and with it, the promise of something new, something dangerous. The humans had discovered something that had remained hidden for centuries, something so powerful that it could shift the balance of the galaxy itself. It all began with a discovery deep beneath the surface of the Earth. Scientists had been conducting routine research when they stumbled upon an ancient alien artifact, buried for millennia. At first, it seemed like just another relic of a long-dead civilization. But as the researchers began to study it, they realized it was no ordinary find. The artifact was a key to something far greater than they could ever have imagined. As the artifact was carefully studied, a hidden message was revealed, a message that had been left by a race of ancient beings who had once roamed the galaxy. The message spoke of a power, a force so strong that it could reshape the very fabric of reality. It was the kind of power that could make entire star systems bow before its might. And the humans, in their curiosity and determination, had unlocked its secrets. The discovery sent shockwaves through Earth's scientific community. What had once been a small, isolated planet on the edge of the galaxy was now in possession of something that could change everything. The humans, once thought weak and insignificant, now held the key to a power that even the most advanced galactic races could not comprehend. As word of the discovery spread, it didn't take long for the leaders of the galaxy's empires to take notice. The once dismissed humans were now a potential threat, a force to be reckoned with. But what did they want with this newfound power? Why had they awakened it now? And most importantly, could the galaxy handle the consequences of their actions? In the shadows of Earth's government, leaders gathered to discuss the implications of the discovery. The artifact was a symbol of humanity's potential, but it was also a warning. With the power they had uncovered, humanity could no longer afford to remain hidden. They could no longer ignore the galaxy's conflicts or the dangers that loomed on the horizon. The message humanity had sent was not just a declaration of their readiness for battle. It was a call to action. They were no longer content with being passive observers. They were ready to take their place in the galaxy's grand stage. On Earth, the world's military began to mobilize. They had no fleet, no army capable of facing the galactic empires. But the power they now possessed gave them an edge, a chance to prove themselves. The humans had always been resilient, but now they had something more. They had the knowledge, the power, and the will to make their mark on the galaxy. But not all humans were eager for the coming conflict. There were factions within Earth's governments and military that were divided on how to use the power they had discovered. Some saw it as a tool for peace, a way to bring balance to the galaxy without violence. Others believed that the time for diplomacy was over, that humanity had waited long enough, and now was the time to fight for their place in the galaxy. As Earth's leaders debated, the rest of the galaxy watched in silence. Empires prepared for war, alliances were forged, and the galaxy's greatest minds turned their attention to Earth. The question that everyone was asking was no longer whether humanity would fight, but when. And as the days passed, it became clear that Earth was no longer a small, insignificant planet. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the rest of the galaxy would soon have to decide whether to welcome them or face them in battle. The awakening of Earth had set in motion a chain of events that no one could predict. And as the galaxy trembled at the thought of what was coming, one thing was certain. The age of humanity's silence was over. They were ready to take their place in the stars. The gathering storm. The news of humanity's newfound power spread across the galaxy like wildfire, igniting fear and fascination in equal measure. Leaders from every corner of the universe began to question the sudden rise of this once dominant species, wondering how far humanity would go to assert its place in the galactic order. There was no turning back now. In the cold void of space, humanity's fleet, though small and inexperienced, began to form. It wasn't just a military force. It was a symbol of something much larger. Every ship, every soldier, every diplomat was united under one purpose: to prove that humanity would not be sidelined any longer. On Earth, there was a sense of unease as the world's leaders debated their next move. They had the power, but did they have the wisdom to wield it? Some factions within Earth's government called for restraint, urging caution in the face of an impending galactic war. After all, they were still a young species compared to the ancient empires that ruled the stars. The last thing they needed was to provoke a conflict they were unprepared for. But there were others who saw things differently. These hardliners knew that humanity could not remain passive any longer. The galaxy had treated them as insignificant for too long, and now it was time to show their strength. They believed that the key to survival was to strike first, to assert dominance before anyone else had the chance to strike them down. As the debate raged on Earth, the galaxy's greatest powers prepared for the inevitable conflict. The massive fleets of the Arcthean Empire, the ruthless Krovac Dominion, and the mysterious Cinder Confederacy all moved into position, their eyes focused on Earth. The question was no longer whether they would clash, but how soon it would happen. The first wave of human ships was barely a match for the forces arrayed against them, but the humans had a secret. They had unlocked the true potential of the ancient alien artifact. No one knew the full extent of its power, but the humans had already begun to test its limits. The artifact held secrets that even the oldest civilizations could not comprehend, and it was giving humanity a new advantage, one that none of the galactic empires had seen coming. Meanwhile, deep in the heart of Earth's government, a secretive council of military leaders and scientists worked day and night to harness the artifact's power. The artifact had strange properties. It could manipulate energy on a massive scale, bend the laws of physics in ways that defied logic, and even alter the course of time itself. If they could fully unlock its secrets, humanity might not just survive the coming war. They might win it. But there was a cost. The artifact was dangerous, and using it too recklessly could have catastrophic consequences. Many in the council feared that if they pushed the artifact too far, they would unleash something beyond their control, something that could destroy them all. At the same time, rumors began to circulate across the galaxy. The galaxy's most powerful empires were watching humanity closely, but there was one race in particular that had a keen interest in Earth's development: the Oreliths. A race of enigmatic beings, the Oreliths had long been seen as the galaxy's hidden hand, influencing events from the shadows without ever revealing their true intentions. Their motives were unclear, but they had always maintained a strict policy of non-interference in galactic affairs. But now, the Oreliths had made their first move. They had sent emissaries to Earth, offering an alliance. It was an unprecedented act, one that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Oreliths were known for their wisdom and their ability to manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. Their knowledge of the artifact could be the key to humanity's survival or their doom. Humanity stood at a crossroads. The galaxy was about to witness the full force of their power, but at what cost? Would they remain the underdogs, or would they become the galaxy's new rulers? The growing storm of conflict was about to break, and no one knew which way it would turn. As humanity prepared to face the galaxy's greatest empires, the true nature of their newfound power began to emerge. The artifact was no longer just a tool, it was a weapon, and humanity was ready to use it. But with every victory came the risk of destruction. Would humanity be able to control the power they had awakened, or would they become victims of their own ambition? The storm was coming, and no one could say who would survive the fight. The Clash of Titans. The first battle of the Galactic War was nothing like humanity had ever experienced before. The Earth had prepared itself, but it was still reeling from the magnitude of what had just been unleashed. When the Krovac Dominion's fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, they were not alone. Several other powerful races from across the galaxy had also converged on Earth's location. They had seen the rise of humanity and understood that the young species now held something powerful, something that had to be stopped at all costs. The sky above Earth darkened as the ships descended, blotting out the stars. Humanity's fleet, small but determined, was ready to face the enemy head-on. The humans had taken the advice of the most aggressive factions within their government, choosing to fight with everything they had. Despite the risk, humanity's resolve was clear. They would defend Earth, no matter the cost. Commander Ilara Quinn stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching as the enemy ships moved into position. Her heart raced, but there was no time for fear. The battle would begin in minutes. She had been preparing for this moment her entire career, and now it had arrived. Humanity's fate rested on the shoulders of her crew and her fleet. "This is it," she whispered to herself as she looked out at the massive alien ships looming on the horizon. "We're not backing down." Meanwhile, on the ground below, Earth's leaders were scrambling to coordinate their defense. The artifact's power had been tapped, but its limits were still unknown. Was humanity's fleet strong enough to stand up to the galaxy's oldest and most powerful forces? Would the artifact be enough to turn the tide? As Commander Quinn's fleet moved to intercept the invaders, something unexpected occurred. An enormous shockwave suddenly rippled through space, sending the enemy ships reeling back. For a moment, it seemed as though the fabric of space itself had bent, distorting time and gravity in ways that no one could explain. The artifact's power had activated once more. It wasn't just the humans who were shocked by this sudden event. The galactic empires had underestimated the true potential of the artifact. The Krovac Dominion's fleet was thrown off course, its ships tumbling through space as their navigation systems struggled to compensate for the unexpected interference. The ships, each one a behemoth in its own right, became sitting ducks for the human fleet. Commander Quinn seized the opportunity, ordering her ships to fire. The first volley of human weapons hit the Krovac ships with devastating force. Explosions rocked the enemy fleet, and massive chunks of armor and debris were sent hurtling into space. Humanity's firepower was greater than anyone had anticipated. "Keep up the fire," Quinn shouted, her voice calm but full of authority. "We've got them on the ropes. Don't let up." The battle raged for hours, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Humanity's ships were outgunned and outnumbered, but the unexpected interference from the artifact gave them an edge they had never dreamed of. With each passing minute, the humans grew bolder, emboldened by the strange and unpredictable power they now wielded. But as the battle seemed to tilt in humanity's favor, a new threat emerged. The Cinder Confederacy, a powerful and secretive race, had arrived on the outskirts of Earth's system. Unlike the Krovac or the Arctheans, the Cinder were known for their ability to manipulate energy fields and create devastating weapons. It seemed as though every galaxy had its own warlords, and now humanity would face yet another test. The Cinder ships, sleek and powerful, moved into position, flanking humanity's fleet. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever faced, able to tear through the strongest shields in seconds. Commander Quinn's fleet had taken a severe toll, and they were quickly losing their advantage. The artifact's power had only been able to do so much. "We need reinforcements," Quinn barked. "Where are those backup fleets?" But there was no answer. The remaining human ships had scattered in the chaos of battle, and Earth's military was struggling to manage the overwhelming force of the enemy fleets. The Oreliths, the enigmatic race that had shown interest in Earth's power, appeared as well. They had arrived with their own fleet, but their intentions remained unclear. Would they help humanity in its hour of need, or would they remain neutral in the face of impending doom? Just as all hope seemed lost, humanity's secret weapon, the artifact, began to hum with life again. This time, it was not just a random pulse. It was something deliberate, a calculated surge of energy that built upon the previous shockwave. The artifact's power was no longer a mystery. It was becoming a weapon of unimaginable force. The Cinder Confederacy and the Krovac Dominion both halted their advances, unable to comprehend the sheer scale of energy emanating from Earth. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and even the most ancient civilizations in the universe were struck with awe. Could humanity control this newfound power? Could they use it to push back their enemies? On Earth, the Council of Military Leaders stared at their screens in disbelief. What had they unleashed? Were they ready to wield this force, or would it destroy them all? As the battle escalated, one thing became clear. Humanity had now made itself an undeniable force in the galaxy. Whether they would be able to stand their ground or be crushed by the weight of their own power was still uncertain. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never view humanity the same way again. The power unleashed. The battle raged on above Earth, a spectacle of chaos and destruction. Humanity's fleet, though small compared to the vast armadas of the galaxy's superpowers, had managed to hold their ground, but only by the slimmest of margins. The Krovac Dominion, with its monstrous warships, and the Cinder Confederacy, with its energy-warping weapons, were relentless. Every moment felt like a desperate struggle for survival. But humanity had one card left to play, one that no one, not even the galactic superpowers, could have anticipated: the artifact. It hummed, a low, ominous sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air. The energy surging from it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Commander Ilara Quinn stood at the helm of the flagship, her eyes locked on the swirling energy readings flashing across the screens. The artifact's pulse was growing stronger by the minute, and she could feel its power thrumming in her bones. "Hold your positions," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We have one chance to turn this around." At that moment, the artifact exploded with light. The shockwave was so powerful that it sent ripples through space, distorting the fabric of reality itself. The enemy fleets, despite their advanced technology and massive size, were thrown into disarray. Krovac warships buckled under the sheer force of the energy pulse, their shields failing and their weapons going silent. The Cinder Confederacy ships, known for their ability to manipulate energy, found their systems destabilized, their intricate field manipulations rendered useless. The humans had done it. The artifact had given them an edge that no one, not even their allies, had expected. The power it unleashed was not just physical, it was a force that manipulated time, space, and energy itself. For the first time in the history of the galaxy, humanity had become a force to be reckoned with. But as the shockwave dissipated, the true magnitude of the situation became clear. While the artifact had caused chaos in the enemy ranks, it had also left humanity vulnerable. The energy it released had drained their own ships' resources, leaving them exposed. The Krovac Dominion and the Cinder Confederacy, though stunned, were not defeated. They regrouped quickly, and a renewed assault was imminent. "Commander, our shields are failing," one of the bridge officers shouted, panic creeping into their voice. "Power up the secondary systems," Quinn ordered, her voice cutting through the tension. "We're not backing down now." As the enemy fleets regained their composure, Quinn knew they had only moments before the next wave of destruction came crashing down. The artifact's power had given them an advantage, but it was fading, and their enemies would soon recover. Just as she feared, the Krovac fleet surged forward. their massive guns targeting humanity's weakened ships. The first salvo struck, shaking the flagship to its core. Sparks flew from the control panels as alarms blared throughout the ship. Quinn gripped the edge of her command chair, her mind racing. "Hold steady," she commanded, her voice firm. "We've taken their best shot. Now it's our turn." On the ground below, the situation was equally dire. Earth's leaders scrambled to coordinate a counterattack, but they were met with the harsh reality that their fleet was struggling. The artifact's power was unpredictable, and its long-term effects were unknown. What had they unleashed? Would the power ultimately save them, or would it be the end of humanity as they knew it? As the Krovik and Cinder fleets closed in, humanity's forces faced an impossible choice. They could continue to fight with everything they had, trusting in the artifact's power to give them an edge, or they could retreat and risk losing everything. But retreating meant admitting defeat, and humanity had never been a species to surrender. Commander Quinn, watching the approaching enemy ships on her screen, made the decision. She wasn't going to let Earth fall, not without a fight. She keyed in the command for full offensive maneuvers. "All ships, prepare to engage," Quinn shouted. "This is our moment. This is humanity's stand." The humans launched their final assault, pouring everything they had into their weapons. The energy pulses from their ships collided with the enemy, forcing them back. It wasn't enough to destroy the entire fleet, but it was enough to buy humanity a precious moment. The battle was far from over, but in that brief flash of victory, humanity had made its mark on the galaxy. They were no longer just a small, insignificant planet in a distant corner of the universe. They were warriors, survivors, and their presence would be felt for generations to come. But as the battle pressed on, the true cost of their actions began to sink in. The artifact's power was not a gift. It was a weapon. A dangerous, unpredictable force that could either save them or destroy them. Would humanity be able to harness its power and become the galaxy's next great empire? Or would they fall victim to the very thing that made them strong? The fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The price of victory. The battle had raged for hours, and yet it felt as though it had only just begun. The artifact's pulse had shifted the tide in humanity's favor, but with every passing moment, the energy it released seemed to consume more of their resources. Ships were running low on power, their shields flickering and their weapons sputtering. Humanity's fleet was exhausted, and it was only a matter of time before the enemy pressed their advantage. Commander Ilara Quinn watched the status screens intently. The Krovak Dominion had regrouped quickly, their colossal warships moving into position for another devastating strike. The Cinder Confederacy, though less numerous, were relentless with their energy-warping tactics, closing in on the remaining human ships. They knew this was their chance to crush humanity once and for all. "Status report," Quinn barked, her eyes not leaving the screen. "Shields are at 30%, Commander. Energy reserves are critically low," the officer at the console reported. "Reinforce the outer hulls. Prepare for the worst," Quinn ordered, a steely calm in her voice. She was determined to keep her crew alive, no matter the cost. "We don't back down. We fight." Outside, the enemy fleets moved in for the kill, their weapons primed to obliterate humanity's defenses. It was a showdown between the massive power of the galactic empires and the grit and determination of humanity. But it was no longer about strategy or tactics. It was about survival. And humanity had something the galaxy's empires could never understand: an unwavering will to fight for their home. Then, as if the universe itself had decided to intervene, a new signal began to crackle through the fleet's communications array. A high-pitched, distorted tone that filled the room with a strange, eerie presence. It wasn't from the enemy. It wasn't from any known source. Quinn's heart skipped a beat. The artifact's energy had triggered something far greater than they had expected. "Captain, you need to see this," one of the officers called out, his voice filled with awe. The holographic display shifted, showing a series of unknown ships, massive and dark, their silhouette barely visible against the deep space void. They were approaching quickly, and their presence sent waves of panic through the crew. These were no ordinary ships. They didn't belong to any known race in the galaxy. The ship's energy signatures were off the charts. This was something new, something ancient. Quinn's mind raced. Was this the consequence of humanity's use of the artifact? Had they triggered the arrival of a power far beyond their own? The unknown ships were now unmistakably moving toward Earth's fleet, and there was no way to know their intentions. "Prepare for contact," Quinn said, gripping the edge of her command chair. Her crew exchanged uncertain glances, but they followed her orders without hesitation. The unknown ships loomed closer, their presence more intimidating with each passing second. The Krovac Dominion and the Cinder Confederacy paused in their assault, as if they too had sensed the arrival of something monumental. The universe had just shifted again, and no one knew what would come next. Then, as the unknown ships neared Earth's fleet, a powerful wave of energy erupted from the lead vessel. It was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. A pulse of pure energy, an overwhelming force, swept through space, temporarily overwhelming all systems in its path. The human fleet's ships jerked violently, lights flickering as the mysterious energy enveloped them. Quinn's heart pounded in her chest. Were these ships allies or enemies? And if they were enemies, how could humanity possibly stand against such power? The unknown ships moved effortlessly through the chaos of the battlefield, effortlessly cutting through the confusion of the Krovac and Cinder forces. It was as if the energy pulse had swept them aside, leaving them helpless before this new force. They fired no weapons. There were no signs of attack, but their mere presence sent the enemy into retreat. What was going on? Then, from the lead ship, a transmission came through. "Humanity." The voice echoed in perfect clarity, though it was as though the voice itself was not entirely of this universe. "We are the Overseers. Your survival is owed to your courage. You have awoken us." A strange, cold shiver ran down Quinn's spine. The Overseers. Who were they? What did they want with humanity? The voice continued. "We will now take responsibility for the protection of your world. You may no longer be alone." Before Quinn could process what she had heard, the transmission cut off, and the unknown ships began to turn away. The Krovac and Cinder forces, now completely disoriented and outmatched by this new arrival, quickly retreated. The battle was over. Humanity had survived. But the cost was high. Humanity had unknowingly unleashed something far greater than they had ever imagined, and the true nature of their survival remained uncertain. The Overseers had come, and they had protected humanity, but at what price? As the Krovac and Cinder fleets disappeared into the depths of space, Quinn and her crew were left in stunned silence. What had just happened? Humanity's victory had been secured, but there was a lingering sense of unease. What was the real price of their survival? And what did the Overseers mean when they said humanity was no longer alone? The answers were still out there, waiting for humanity to discover. But one thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. New era dawns. The battle was over, but the feeling of unease lingered in the air. The silence that followed the retreat of the Krovac and Cinder forces was deafening. The damage to the fleet was severe, but humanity had survived. Yet Commander Ilara Quinn couldn't shake the feeling that this victory was only the beginning of something much larger and far more dangerous. As the crew worked tirelessly to assess the damage and repair the ships, Quinn stood at the command center, staring out into the vast expanse of space. The Overseers had come from the depths of the unknown, their power overwhelming and inexplicable. They had saved humanity, but at what cost? "Commander," a voice interrupted her thoughts. It was Lieutenant Rourke, her trusted second-in-command. "We've analyzed the data from the Overseer's energy pulse. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's beyond anything we could comprehend." Quinn nodded slowly, her mind still racing. What does it mean? What are they, really? Rourke hesitated before responding, the weight of the unknown hanging in the air. "We don't know, Commander. But I think they're not just watching us. I think they're testing us." A shiver ran down Quinn's spine. The overseers had said they would protect humanity, but their words echoed in her mind, the cryptic declaration, "You may no longer be alone." The sound of footsteps approached, and Admiral Helix, the leader of the remaining human forces, entered the command center. He was a man used to making tough decisions, but today his face was etched with uncertainty. "Ilara," Helix began, his voice low, "we've received a transmission from the Krovac Dominion. They're requesting peace talks." Quinn's brow furrowed. "Peace talks? After everything that's happened?" Helix nodded. "Yes, they're offering to discuss a ceasefire. The Cinder Confederacy is in retreat, and they know they can't win this war. But this isn't just about the battle. The galaxy knows what happened here today. Humanity has done something no one thought possible. We've survived the impossible, and now they want to know how we did it." Quinn took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for, the chance to prove themselves on the galactic stage. But what would they offer in return for peace? And more importantly, what did the overseers want? These beings were not here just for humanity's survival. Their intervention had been deliberate. There was something larger at play, and humanity had unknowingly been dragged into it. "I think we need to meet with them," Quinn said finally. "But on our terms. We won the battle, but we're not at their mercy. We need to make sure we're not just pawns in someone else's game." Helix nodded in agreement. "Agreed. But you should know, Commander, there are whispers across the galaxy. People are talking about us. Humanity. Some see us as the next great power, others as a dangerous, unpredictable force. The overseers didn't just save us. They've changed the balance of power, and we need to decide where we stand in all of this." Quinn's mind raced with the possibilities. Humanity had always been on the fringe of galactic politics, dismissed as insignificant, even primitive. But now things had changed. The intervention of the overseers had put humanity on the map. No longer just a fledgling species, but one that had survived the impossible. "Prepare for the peace talks," Quinn ordered, "and make sure the crew knows that we don't back down. Humanity's survival was not just a stroke of luck. It was our strength, and no one can take that from us." As the crew scrambled to prepare for the negotiations, Quinn felt the weight of the responsibility she now carried. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy, but the real challenge was just beginning. The overseers had made their presence known, and with them came the unknown. Would humanity remain true to its roots, fighting for its freedom and independence? Or would they fall into the trap of being used by these mysterious beings, caught in a cosmic game they couldn't even begin to understand? The peace talks would reveal much. But one thing was clear: humanity was no longer on the sidelines. They had earned their place in the galaxy. Now, it was time to decide what to do with that power. As Quinn gazed out at the stars, she couldn't shake the feeling that the greatest battle humanity would face was not against the Krovac, the Cinder, or even the overseers. It would be against themselves, their desire for survival, their quest for power, and the very essence of what it meant to be human. The galaxy had trembled when humanity stood its ground, but the true test was yet to come.